Blame the Fed. David Sachs and the venture capitalist who cried bank run. Quote, "Where is Powell? Where is Yellen? Stop this crisis now," end quote, cried a perturbed and angry David Sachs before market close on Friday, March 10th. Sachs, the venture capitalist famous for co-founding PayPal, his tech investments, and for buying and dumping $1 billion worth of Solana, was raising the alarm that Silicon Valley Bank had financial troubles and could risk a bank run. In his panicky tweets, Sachs argued that if Silicon Valley Bank wasn't saved, regional and small banks would also experience bank runs, causing financial chaos. Silicon Valley Bank was one of the most important banks on the Silicon Valley venture capital circuit, and conducted business with various companies that Sachs had previously invested in. A particularly notable cohort of Silicon Valley Bank clients was the so-called PayPal Mafia, a group of investors who founded PayPal and are often associated with hard right-wing views. Yet it seems that a number of the PayPal Mafia's members pulled money out of the bank before asking the authorities to step in. Indeed, Bloomberg reported that by March 9th, Peter Thiel had removed his funds from Silicon Valley Bank and was warning other investors and depositors to do the same. Strangely, Sachs claimed after he started warning about a potential bank run that his VC firm Kraft Ventures had no money in Silicon Valley Bank. Blame the Fed. Sachs is blaming the Federal Reserve for the collapse of the bank and is pinning the blame on a rapid rise in interest rates. He says that rate hikes were made after inflation caused by government money printing, makes no mention of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the subsequent energy crisis. He also says that the low rates enticed banks to buy mortgage-backed securities and treasuries, but have now dropped in value due to the rise in rates. He also associated the crisis at Silicon Valley Bank with those at bankrupt crypto bank Signature and Silvergate Bank. It's important to note, however, that the problems have little, if anything, in common with Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley degenerate. Sachs implies that banks risked buying negative-yielding bonds and mortgage-backed securities because the government told them it was safe to do so. The reality is a bit more complex, however. Banks are allowed to take repository loans against their bonds, treasuries, and mortgage-backed securities. They can then use these loans to trade other financial instruments and/or hedge against their collateral. Hedging against interest rate hikes with swaps is also a common feature for banks, which have significant fixed income portfolios. However, Silicon Valley Bank appeared to go all in without any consideration of the potential risks. Indeed, its filings show that by the end of last year, the bank's $120 billion securities portfolio was mostly composed of bonds and MBS totaling around $90 billion. The bank had deposits of around $189 billion and a total of $74 billion of loans to its clients. But there was one problem. Its fixed income portfolio was completely unhedged, and the bank is now being accused of hiding its losses with creative accounting. Despite the fact that Silicon Valley Bank was struggling with an oversized balance sheet of securities which were on the wrong side of the trade, it kept giving generous loans and credit facilities to its clients until its very last days. Everyone gets saved. After Silicon Valley Bank chief executive Gregory Becker sold his stock and jetted off to Hawaii, HSBC announced it bought the bank for a symbolic £1. Prior to HSBC's buyout, Silicon Valley Bank's depositors were secured with a guarantee by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, effectively making the $250,000 insurance limits redundant. It was mission accomplished for the PayPal Mafia. Not so libertarian. For years, the PayPal Mafia projected an uncompromising libertarian stance against big government and government spending. Occasionally, it released highly controversial and contrarian positions on social issues and principles embraced by the majority. For example, Sachs and Thiel once co-wrote an article against positive discrimination that focused mainly on the bias in favour of black students designed to close the racial gap in education. Today, Sachs prides himself on being an outspoken critic of the US and its helping of Ukraine. He demands the US negotiate peace terms with Russia. However, his desire to let the world function as it would without any government or state regulation is totally at odds with his demands for the federal authorities to save his favourite bank. For more informed news, follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Google News, or subscribe to our YouTube channel.